Back. So today we're going to talk a little bit more about design, but we're going to focus more on modular design. Modular design is a little bit more contemporary design. It's what you see in a lot of magazines and things like that. And definitely it is huge in the yearbook world right now. So this is probably what many of you already use, and some of you may want to move to this. One of the things that I think is going to be important this year in particular is that we tell a lot of different stories, and we may need to do that in a little bit different way because our world is different right now than it ever has been before. So creating your spreads in modulars with modular design is going to give you the opportunity to have several different storytelling opportunities on a single spread. And while we're going to still follow some of those basic design rules and basic design elements that we've talked about so far, we will still have margins. We will still have grids that we design upon, starting and stopping all of our photos and all of our captions on grids. We'll still have photos, texts, and graphic elements, and definitely white space. But we're going to use our spacing a little bit differently when we use modular design. And I think to do modular design well, that's one of the sets of rules that you really need to master. So let's take a look at levels of spacing. There are 3 levels of spacing in design. Level 1 is tight spacing. That's where you place things close together. You can even have 0 points where they directly touch one another, but more typically we're going to have between a real fine 1-point rule line up to a 3-point rule line between the elements on the spread that we want to show that they are working together. So think tight spacing is going to help us squish things. It's going to show us that this group of stuff works together. It's all about one thing. Level 2 spacing is standard spacing. It's that 1 pica internal margin that goes between typically photos and captions, between 2 columns of text, for instance, between headline treatment and the body copy. Typically, not always, but typically that 1 pica spacing is going to be used there. What we do differently with modular design is we add level 3 spacing, rails of 3 to 6 picas in width. And those are going to give us more breathability to our spread. So we can still have our negative space to the outside, but we can also have these rails that create the XY axis on our spreads. So let's take a look at what that looks like. Again, think you're going to, in modular design, squish things together if they go together and separate things if they don't. So we're still creating our XY axis here. This time, instead of having a single pica creating those vertical and horizontal eye lines, we're going to have a rail of 3 to 6 picas. This rail is 3 picas. You can widen that up and have it a little bit thicker if you wish to. That does depend on how you set up your grid system though, so keep that in mind. Again, you're always going to be starting and stopping on those grid lines. So one thing you're going to notice is, remember how we talked about never break your eye line. You want your eye line to go all the way across the spread. True, except you can break it up to 1 time. Notice how we've done this here. We have this other area over here. Typically in modular design, you're going to have, in a yearbook, you're going to have some kind of a theme-inspired package. And it's going to be in a consistent spot and have some consistent design elements to it. So this one is going down the side of the page as a sidebar. Sometimes you'll see it coming across the bottom of the page, across the top of the page. But somewhere you're going to probably put that theme-inspired design module. You want to place that first. Then create your XY axis, railing that thematic element. So we're going to rail that. We're going to create our XY axis. And then we're still going to have 4 additional storytelling packages. So altogether on this spread, we're going to be able to tell 5 stories. One that's theme related, and then 4 additionals. Okay, again, you want to consider each of the modules, 4 modules and the theme related one. So take a look at the theme related one. If this is our theme related module going down the side, notice how it's got these kind of a heavy 1 pica rule line that's broken with some statistics, and it's going to have a little mini ident here for our person, mini headline with our person's identification information here. And then it's going to have some quotes or questions and answers, or this can vary. What's inside of it can vary. The statistical information can vary, but it's all going to have this real similar thematic look. So then we're going to start building again from our XY axis. We're going to build our different modules. So when you take a look at your dominant mod, this is a dominant. Instead of being a dominant photo with a traditional story, it's going to be a photo montage, a collection of photos. Notice how they're tightly spaced. They've got this 2-point separation between them. And then this will be a headline package and then our caption package. Okay, we're going to keep building out. We would go to the next mod. Again, we have a cluster of photos, a montage of photos separated with that consistent spacing. This will be where our text will go. Building down, again, from that XY axis, building out, another photo montage and some more text. And then building up to the top, another photo montage and some text. So you're going to see how adding modular design lets you add more pictures. More pictures equal more coverage. And what is it that people want to see most in the yearbook? Surveys say they want to see themselves and their friends. So this gives us a lot more photo opportunities, a lot more opportunities to tell more stories and to include more people. Smaller chunks of copy you're going to find in modular design. You guys are a generation that typically doesn't like to read those large blocks of text. You want your information quick and you want it visual. So modular design really plays to that interest. Okay, so let's see if we can put that together. When we put that together, you see here we've got still our sidebar in place. We add this picture, still a really good strong visual here for our dominant photo. Another good photo up here and here. These are all stars, so nice big headline that draws you in. And then a caption that is a collective caption. This captions all 3 of the photos. Moving up to the top of our cheer spread, we have another story. So this is our story close to home. These are about home games and our collective caption here. Adding the others, you see how each of these modules has its own little mini headline. Notice how there is a hierarchy here. Our dominant story has a dominant headline. The other smaller stories have smaller headline spaces. Okay, that's on purpose. We want our dominant element to have the dominant head. It's what's going to draw our eye first. And then the others can go down from there. You will set kind of how you want those to be for your staff. You'll make decisions about that ahead of time so everybody knows what point size you're going to use for those varied modules. Okay, so see how the modular design allows you to include way more people. This one actually has 5 storytelling opportunities. And so each one of those is its own story. So getting back to this year and how this is just going to be a different year. So one of the suggestions that I would have for you guys is that you consider, depending on whether we're actually in school or not in school, having these different story packages assigned to different students as you create the book. Instead of having, if you, especially if you're going chronological, we did this spring and it worked really well. If you're going chronological and you create week spreads, let's say, you could have each student still responsible for creating one of the packages on the spread so that everybody is continually working on a specific thing, but nobody's overwhelmed with having all of it to do. So that's a little tip, little suggestion for you. Modular design works great for that. All right, time for a little mini comprehension check, and then we're going to move on to design trends. What's new and what's now?